Hi, folks. Welcome to the CG Spectrum Open Day. We're going to go through our degrees and diploma subjects today, so hopefully you're in the right place. So first of all, a bit of an introduction to me. So I'm Stuart Butler. I'm the Dean of Creative Industries here at CG Spectrum and the CG Spectrum Institute. So my career has been around games education particularly, but also working in the games industry on some bike racing games back in the PS2 era, which unfortunately now does age me and highlight that I'm getting on a little bit. I am a gold authorized instructor with Epic Games as well, so Unreal Engine is weirdly a thing that I talk in my sleep. So yeah, so I'm here as in a role of making sure that the education that you receive as part of your time at CG Spectrum is as good as it can be, and I look after all the wonderful people that have joined me this evening here, late night for some, morning for others, depending on where they're coming from around the world. But I look after all those things, and my co-host today, very early morning for him, Sean.
Hey y'all, it's great to meet you. We're so glad you joined us today. As Stuart mentioned, my name's Sean Amlaner. I'm the Dean of Students here at CG Spectrum. A little bit about me. I've had opportunity to work in the post-production visual effects industry for the better part of my career. Some background is my specialty is digital compositing. It's my baby. If you want to talk all day, we can always talk about visual effects and more specifically the comp land, where we fix it in post almost every single day. But yeah, I look over the student journey from the beginning to end. So when you join with us and start from day one all the way through to graduation, that's community and everything that it delivers, including your learning experience with us. So it's a little bit about me. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Let's do a little student showcase. Get everybody excited? What do you
Yeah,
think?
we may as well begin with the awesome work our students do.
All
Hit it,
right.
Sean. Awesome. So just a run through of how things are going to go then for the rest of this evening, morning, wherever you are. I'm going to have the wonderful opportunity in a moment to introduce each of the industry panelists and our mentors and staff that are joining for this call. We're then going to go through our core subjects, which lay the foundations for all of the learning that we do here and give you the industry understanding from as a whole. We're then going to go through our majors, and what we mean by that is all of our different subjects, and that's where each of our panelists will talk about their areas and give you some insights into what you can learn to become here at CG Spectrum. Sean's then going to talk about our community and the biggest part of being a student with us, and then we'll go through the admissions process and then move on to a live Q&A. So as we go through any of the subjects, whether it be the cores or the majors, if you've got any questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box at the bottom of Zoom, and you may get a text reply, or we may mark it for something that we'll answer in the live Q&A after, if we think it's going to be something that's going to be quite juicy or quite deep to dig into, or something that everybody's asking us and we figure it's going to be easier. So do feel free to ask those questions as you go along so you don't forget them, and we'll cover as much as we can in the live Q&A at the end. Sure. There we go. So who are we? So we are CG Spectrum. Hopefully you've got that sense already. So more specifically, we're talking about the CG Spectrum Institute, which is our accredited side of study here at CG Spectrum. So the company has existed for a long time and has worked to bridge a gap in education between learning the skills and being industry ready. And that's where we've created some fantastic courses to make sure that our students are ready to go straight into industry with all of the skills and all of the understanding of how everything works. I mean that you can hit the ground running, but also a big difference is you will be taught by industry experts that are active in the industries that you want to work in. They are doing the jobs that you are hopefully here to learn how to do. And that's one of the most amazing parts of what we do. We have partners and mentors around the world, as you'll discover as they all introduce themselves shortly. And our global community also offers us a huge insight into the different parts of the industries, how things are different in different parts of the world, how different parts of the communities work differently, how industry changes over time. So, and all of our stuff is based on industry. If I say industry too many times, it sounds a little bit disingenuous, but it really is part of the blood that makes up CG Spectrum. So the accredited courses that we're talking about today, we have 3 different degrees that we offer. They are Australian degrees, which are a globally recognized degree. So it doesn't matter whether you're joining us from America, the UK, Europe, or Australia. These are valid internationally recognized degrees that are full degree qualifications. We have 3, as I said. So we've got animation and VFX, which includes majors in 3D modeling, 3D animation, visual effects or effects, and real-time 3D, which we'll cover all of those shortly. We have our game development degree and diploma, which covers games design and game programming. And then we have our digital art degree, which covers 2D animation, concept art, or illustration. And you can choose to study any one of those things with us here at CG Spectrum. And now I'm going to shut up for a bit and introduce all of the wonderful panelists. So first up, Kathy.
Yeah, thanks, Stu. My name is Kathy. I'm in Australia. My background is in VFX like Sean. So I left uni, and my first job out of uni was to hire for Game of Thrones, which was pretty cool. I worked in recruitment for a while, so I know what studios are looking for in students, especially once you've just graduated, and I'll talk a bit more about that when we get to the core section. But I've also worked in production, so I've worked on the floor. I've worked with all the departments, everyone from juniors to senior supervisors. And I've also, after I did industry, I worked at a university. I've taught 3D modeling, animation, Unreal, but I kind of bring in the balance between academics and industry and try and get you as ready for industry as possible. And that's my little spiel.
Awesome. Cheers, Kathy. And next up is our games design wizard, Jason Barlow.
Hey there, folks. So yeah, I'm Jason Barlow. I'm based in the UK. I'm the curriculum lead when it comes to all of the content for games design. So everything that you're going to learn, everything you're going to read, watch, is probably going to be coming through me. I have been educating in the games industry for going on 14 or so years now at multiple different institutions. And I did spend a bit of time as well working in VR, leading a training simulation company, building virtual reality kind of training simulations for the police, rail, all sorts of stuff like that, like counter-terrorism and like getting people off a train that's on fire. So really cool, interesting ways of using games technology.
Awesome. Cheers, Jason. Continuing with the UK and beards theme, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for that, Stu. So hi, I'm Tom. I'm also based in the UK, as Stu said. As the beard suggests, I'm a programmer, specializing in like mathsy kind of things. I got my degree in games design and programming in about 2016. Spent a couple of years running an indie studio, working on contract work and assets for asset stores, that kind of thing. Then got sucked into education and loved it. So I've been there ever since. Published a book, written a paper you can see on screen there. Yeah, really sort of pushing the games research angle.
Awesome. Cheers, Tom. Next up, Asan.
Hello, my name is Hassan. I have been making video games since 2009. Fun thing, I have a little bit of beard because I was a programmer before becoming an artist. That's why I have the beard. The latest project I worked on was with Machine Games on Indiana Jones. It's on Game Pass, you can play it. Before that, I spent 5 years on Redfall, and now I am a senior artist at Bethesda Game Studios, working on a project that you definitely want to play. And I am the head of department for modeling here at CG Spectrum, and excited to introduce our program to you guys.
Cheers, Asan. Thank you for that. Next up, Peter.
Hi everyone, I'm Peter Ocampo from the south of the UK. I've been a mentor of concept art with CG Spectrum for coming up to 4 years now. And like many of you, I'm sure, I've been drawn to the creative industries from a very young age. I've been drawing and creating things as long as I can remember. That led me to pursue a career in computer animation. And that led to VFX, where I worked for over a decade. I was lucky enough to work on films like the Nolan Batman films and Inception as a 3D artist. Eventually, I transitioned into doing concept art for VFX, and my experience there on films and shows like Doctor Who and Annihilation eventually led me down a very dark path, and now I freelance in concept art and horror art and creature design for horror films. So there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. If you would like to look at Peter's art station, don't do it before you go to bed. But if it's early in the morning, go for it. And now the artist behind our mascot, Mia, Psych.
Hey everyone. Yes, I'm Psycho-san. Nice to meet you guys. Yeah, I'm a 2D animator and a bit of an illustrator as well. I'm French. I studied animation in France. I actually studied architecture first. I was even a 3D animator before I was a 2D animator, so it's possible to change careers in this industry. I live in London. I've been working for about 20 years as a freelancer mainly. I work a lot in the advertising industry, but I also worked in movies, music videos, video games. So all sorts of things. I enjoy being a freelancer for that reason, is that there's a lot of diversity and a lot of styles to work on. So yeah, I look forward to telling you a bit more about 2D animation. All right.
Left out the Katy Perry bit. That's very, very humble of you.
Story for later.
I will tell that more later then.
We'll go back to beards. We've got Enric.
Hi, my name is Enric.Miquel. It's quite long, so I go by Rick, as it's much easier for everyone. I started my career in film and VFX, also have a computing background. Probably that's the beard, coming out as well. But yeah, I discovered animation for video games, and then I just fell in love with the craft and the community in games. I love all types of animation. I'm a huge gamer as well, so as you can imagine, being able to combine my two passions was just a dream come true. And coming from a small town near Barcelona, I'm a perfect example that if you work hard, you can too make it happen. You can make your dreams come true. And here at CG Spectrum, we'll provide you with all the tools and skills you need to help you make that dream come true. I love my job and I love sharing the passion. As Stuart mentioned before, we're all like professionals and we're like in the industry. So yeah, I love sharing my passion with my students, and I see every day where their progress meets their expectations, and that's the highlight of my week. So that's why I'm here, and I hope to share everything that I know with you guys.
Awesome. Cheers, Rick. And now for the most excitable man in Australia, John Wall.
It's just so difficult to come after all these people that have got immense talent and great beards, and I have neither. So my role is to make sure that we assist our students in the journey of changing your lives for the better. And then so I've spent close to over 20 years in education, and Alina, my partner in crime, will speak in a moment. But yeah, we're here to help you enroll. In the event you've got questions or queries, or you need to have a deep dive into the content, we're your people to assist you to join this amazing school and meet all these immensely talented people.
Awesome. Cheers, John. And Elena.
Hello. Yes, my name is Alina, and I am part of the admissions team here at CG Spectrum. I've been with the college for almost 10 years now, and I've had the pleasure of watching the business grow into the premium education provider it is today. My role is to help guide prospective students through the admissions process, and I primarily assist students that are also based here in Australia, but we have a fantastic team of international advisors for all our overseas inquiries as well. So if you just want to go to the next slide, Sean, and we have a bit more information. Awesome. So if you have any specific questions about the enrolment process, please don't hesitate to shoot us an email directly to the hello@cgspectrum.com email address. Alternatively, if you submit an inquiry on our website, we'll be more than happy to give you a call and we can have a chat over the phone about our courses and the enrolment process as well. Unfortunately, I'm unable to stay for the rest of the presentation as I have a very cranky toddler to put to bed, but John will be available during the Q&A at the end if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Elena. Thanks for giving us a little bit of time away from the cranky toddler. Awesome. So we're going to start talking about the nitty-gritty stuff now. So what better place to start than our core subjects? And I'll shut up and hand over to Kathy.
Thank you. So whether you're doing the diploma or the bachelor at CGS, you'll be doing your majors. So you'll be specializing in 3D anim or modeling or concept, but you'll also be doing the core subjects. And now if anyone's ever looked at a job ad, whether you wanted to work at a studio or whether you wanted a part-time job, you will have noticed that a part of those job ads will say you need the skills, let's say Unreal or modeling or coding and that sort of stuff. But a lot of the other things on those job ads are ability to communicate, problem solve, work with people, all that sort of stuff. And that's really where the core subjects come into it. So we've got two streams. We have the industry side and the more creative side. So the industry side is really kind of like an insider's look at what it's like to work in a studio. So all these subjects have been designed to make you, I guess, like I don't want to say the best. I'm going to say the best hireable person once you've graduated from school. So, once you've graduated, you'll have a really good understanding of what it's like to work at a game studio and an effects studio and an animation studio. You'll know how to communicate within a studio, how to communicate with clients, with peers, your team, with your leads and your sceners. You'll be able to problem solve. But all these things, so like even problem solving, managing projects and establishing business, it's all very, very industry specific. So all of this stuff you're learning about games, VFX, animation. I'm going to keep saying those three because that's all I say. But everything is industry standard, industry inspired. And because all your mentors, even for your cores, are from industry, we're always updating the content with the latest thing from industry. Literally this morning, I was teaching a class and I was able to share a video of a Netflix announcement that came out yesterday. I want to say a couple of days ago, the new Ghostbusters animation series that is coming out, and there's a studio in Sydney. working on it, and they're looking for people in programming, in modeling, in animation, and we know people in the studio. So having that connection and getting a real insight into these industries is really going to make you a stronger candidate when you're ready to leave, when you're ready to graduate and jump into industry. There's also the creative side. So this is all additional skills you learn to help you with your majors. So film and games principles, art and design concepts, color theory, shape language, all this sort of stuff that you can use directly in your majors. You've got story and visual narrative, lighting and cinematography. How do you make your characters look like they have a certain personality and all that sort of stuff? And then you've got your final year if you're doing the bachelor, your final term if you're doing the bachelor, which is the capstone. And that entire term is designed to help you get a job. It's looking at, okay, where do you want to work? What kind of studio? Do you want to be a freelancer? Do you want to work in games, in anim? Who's hiring? How do we prepare you best to get that job? Let's talk about interviews and CVs and all that sort of stuff, job applications. How do you get yourself out there and get your work on the platforms? And so people can take you seriously and reach out to you and ask you, if you're available for work and that sort of stuff. So I'm very passionate about the course. I think it's really important. Sorry, but it's all designed to help you move on into, from a student to a professional. So I'll stop. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Kathy. Don't worry. Your passion is great, and a key part of who we are. So now for the majors, we're going to kind of go through a bit of a whistle-stop tour through these to make sure that we don't kind of hang around on any for too long. And each of the mentors and folks will talk for each of them. If you do have any questions, as we said before, drop them in the Q&A, and we'll either answer them live or we'll answer them by sort of text in the background. So first up, Jason is going to talk about game design and our game development degree.
Hey there, folks. So I'll talk a little bit, and then Tom will talk a little bit about the mathy programming bit. But obviously, our games development covers a lot of different topics, and that's because games in general are made by a multitude of different disciplines. And what you might even find is that some of these other courses, some of these other subjects that people are doing, they might be doing it with games in mind, because it's a collaborative effort that means that so many people come together to build those games that you are playing. So what we do on the games design course or the games development courses, we look at every single aspect that goes into making a game, whether we do it as a really large focus for a whole kind of subject, or whether we just cover it and explore things like art and sound, to understand how all of those different elements actually come to making a playable, fun, engaging experience for the player. So we cover design, we cover all the different aspects of design, whether that is coming up with the ideas, pitching your concept, documenting it, being able to lead a team that takes an idea from the actual kind of initial I could say an idea all the way to a final playable thing, or whether it's building systems, programming, and looking at the actual mechanics and how they work. It could be looking at level design and looking at the actual playable spaces, whether that's just blocking them out and thinking how do you make somewhere that's actually fun and engaging, or whether you make somewhere that's really atmospheric, moody, and really beautifully looking art wise. If you jump to the next slide for me. There you go, thanks. So obviously there's a whole lot of stuff that we can be doing, and it could be that you're approaching these things here, and it might be that you're building those actual kind of environments there, you're placing all these assets in, building a core level, or it could be that you're using this to build playable spaces, building mechanics. So that one on the left, what are you actually doing in that space? Are you exploring it? Are you experiencing this sci-fi one in the middle as a horror game, as a shooter? We'll look at all of those kind of different elements to that. You just jump to the next one. Thanks. Yeah, so as I said, there's a lot of different kind of elements of being a designer, and we cover those all the way through. So we've got obviously the 5 different subjects that we do, and then the capstone at the end. And what we try to do through our course is we introduce you to a little bit of each one of these. We make you aware of what it's like to be a level designer, what it's like to be a systems designer, narrative designer, and also not necessarily because you might want to be those, but you're going to work with those people. So understanding what they need from you and what you might need to give to them. And again, obviously bringing all those people together to make something that's really, really awesome and cool at the end. I know Tom will talk about the programming ones in a sec. So just jump to the next slide for me. Thanks. So yeah, we got 5 terms, and on those, we basically start off by coming up with game concepts, exploring what goes into a game, how you pitch that game, how you come up with all the different cool ideas and what actually works as a game. And then we go into looking at actually prototyping those, bit of visual scripting, making fun, playable experiences for somebody. Then we go really deep into the actual individual bits of a game. And again, we can start looking at now where your interests lie. So as you go through each of these different subjects, what you're going to find is that you might really have an affinity for building systems, blueprinting, prototyping, and making gameplay. It could be that you're actually just really interested in building levels and blocking out a fun playable space. And as we go through, we get to that capstone project right at the end. That's going to be your opportunity to really focus on like, what is it that makes games awesome for you? What is it that you want to kind of show off in your portfolio so that when you go into the industry, that's like the kind of jobs that you can apply for. So yeah, we go through that. 2 seconds. And one of the key things we try to understand is obviously that you might go into a big AAA team and you might focus on one of these jobs and need to work with a whole bunch of other people, collaborate with them, each with their own different disciplines. But also games could be a very small solo project or a little indie team. And again, you might have to wear a lot of different hats and you might have to take on a whole bunch of these different roles or at least know how to do bits of them. So we try to prepare you to be able to build games, whatever scale, whatever size, whatever discipline, and hopefully find what is your interest inside of games.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Jason. So moving on to games programming. So it's a lot more of the nuts and bolts about how to make these things, all these sort of pretty things you've been seeing, and the mechanics Jason's been talking about, these fun experiences, like how to make them actually work. So we start off in programming foundations with C++. It is the industry standard language. So we start you off running with that, but we don't necessarily require any previous experience. We do start you off nice and gently, just variables, statements, that kind of thing, then building into the more complex object orientation, data structures, that kind of deal. So it's a nice sort of gentle introduction. You learn all the foundational tools. And then immediately after that, in game engine programming, we bring that through into Unreal Engine. So a lot of the sort of foundational tools and setup is done for you inside of the engine. So we'll look at how Unreal organizes itself, how a lot of that UI works, and then bring through the C++, making these mechanics function between blueprints and C++ to give you the full overview. At that point, we sort of look at the specialisms. So there's a lot of things that you can take game programming towards. We have a lot of AI programmers and stuff, like a lot of them, but we cover things like the 3 Cs, so character control and camera, making sure they're made efficiently, but also in a way that a designer could use to make some really fun stuff. AI concepts, like what's built into the engine, behavior trees, environment queries, perception systems, that kind of deal. Before we move into the more sort of heavy topics, some people call them heavy, I call it fun, networking replication. So a lot of games are multiplayer, will look at the core sort of concepts underneath, how packets work, that kind of deal, how the internet actually functions, before we look at how we make a game work on top of that platform, and how we could maybe look at stopping cheaters and working out if somebody drops out for 4 seconds, how do we work out what their character should do? All these sort of questions we're going to be answering. Then advanced AI and game mechanics, really elevating those specialisms to a more sort of complex level. Looking at how we could take maybe some more advanced AI methods to make your behavior to make a more complex mechanic, maybe, or communicate between animation and gameplay to create some kind of mixed flow, that kind of deal, maybe like a Dark Soulsy kind of deal. And then finishing up with that capstone, if you liked one sort of nugget of information as we're going through the course, you can take that and run with it, make a portfolio piece. As with pretty much all of these courses, your portfolio is going to be massively important when you go to look for jobs, because it's your way of showing your employer, like, hey, this is what I'm capable of, and this is an example of who I am and what I can do. So at the end of that, you should come out with something pretty cool. Okay.
Awesome. Cheers, guys. That's hopefully given everybody a good idea of our games courses. Just before we move on, I thought it was worth mentioning, because I didn't mention it earlier, all of these slides have a row for a diploma exit, and that's where, if you choose to study a diploma with us, that's as far as you'll go. And then if you choose to do a full degree with us, you'll go the rest of the way. So just thought I'd explain that. It's probably self-explanatory, but I thought I'd just be 100% sure everybody knew what that meant. And now Asan is going to take us through 3D modeling.
All right. So in our department, we're focusing on the 3D modeling side of project. Now, it could be a movie or a VFX project or animation, or it could be video games. Our program is super versatile. We use Unreal Engine for our rendering because Unreal Engine is the go-to software right now if you want to apply to any major studios. We have series like Mandalorian made in Unreal Engine to most of the industry right now. 70%, maybe more, is using Unreal Engine. So you can, as a modeler, you can focus on characters or you can focus on environment art. And we made sure that after learning the fundamentals of modeling for video games, you pick and choose between one or the other, so that you can be more professional in one and apply for your desired position. One of the major things in our department is our mentors. We have mentors who have worked and are working currently in the industry. We don't have people who have retired or don't want to do the actual work anymore. We have people's worked on GTA, Red Dead Redemption, Last of Us, Indiana Jones, a lot of new IPs and upcoming IPs that is very important. So what you learn basically is 3D modeling, texturing, rendering, making sure that we can go probably to the next slide. We make sure that you have proper presentation so you can apply. We help you build your portfolio. We mainly use Maya, Substance Painter for texturing, and Unreal Engine for showcasing. We also go very deep using ZBrush and sculpting, which later you can use it for 3D printing, whatever you really like. And also we make high poly or high quality assets using ZBrush, which is a sculpting tool. We can probably go to the next one. Yeah, so the most important thing for us with video game, with the modeling department, is to make sure that you're ready to apply for a position. My job is to make sure that once you're done with our 6-term program, your portfolio is ready to get into the to break into the industry and be a professional in the industry. And this takes soft skills and of course the execution skills, and we make sure that you learn both of those. We have course TAs who help you during the week. We have mentors who help you on your QAs. We have a very strong community that is very active and always challenged with different ideas. Yeah, it's a very organic and interesting and fun ecosystem that we have built, which is very close to what you will experience in the actual industry. And this is our 3D modeling. So we have the fundamentals, actually, yeah. So you learn the fundamentals first, and then as you grow, we go software agnostic. So we're not going to just teach you Maya or Blender or any of these software. We tend to focus on workflows and pipelines, as opposed to you're just going to learn one software, because our industry is changing rapidly. So we don't want to teach you something that is, once you're done in 2 years, it's already too old and you don't know what the next thing is going to be. We will teach you things that you will learn, and these are the fundamentals of 3D modeling, whether it's environment art or character art. I'm very very focused on this matter because our industry is changing rapidly with a lot of new tools and new techniques coming in. So you will learn a tool, which is Maya or Unreal Engine or Substance Painter for texturing, for instance, or ZBrush, but we tend to lean more towards teaching you how to fish as opposed to giving you a fish. So that you can, once you're done, you're good to go in whatever company you want to work with whatever tools that you want to learn. It's going to be easy because the fundamentals and most important things are always going to be the same, no matter we're talking about 10 years ago, today, or 10 years from now.
Awesome. Thanks, Hassan. Next up, we'll hand over to Peter for concept art and then illustration.
Oh, excuse me. Hello. So what is concept art? Well, what normally comes to mind when we bring up concept art are beautiful images, such as the one you see here, or those very polished images that you see on ArtStation. And that's certainly what draws a lot of people into concept art, but it's not necessarily what you end up doing day to day as a concept artist. There are two main points which I'll talk about here. The first is that concept art is actually art to aid the process of production. That is, you're creating art blueprints that can be used by modelers or texture artists to then go on to produce the various assets that will make up the game. It can also include mood illustrations that communicate, for example, to the lighting artists what mood to aim for, or key shot illustrations that are sometimes used for pitch work to give the client an idea of what a particular moment in their script might look like. The second point is you may have heard the terms concept art and concept designer used interchangeably. And this is because as a concept artist, you're the ideas person. When it comes to things like characters, props, and environments, no one ever just wants to see one particular design for an asset. You want to be trying things out and giving clients options, because that's how you bring your clients or your team into the creative process. So the skills we require, well, we do require a firm grasp of art fundamentals. We look for students to have a basic level in those fundamentals. Art is communication, and you need to have control over what you're saying. And if you're just starting out on your drawing journey, you're probably not going to be able to say very much. So we do look for a basic level in those fundamentals. Of course, we are going to improve on those fundamentals over the course, and mastery is achieved through a deep knowledge of those fundamentals. But we do really hit the ground running here, and so we do require that you have a bit of familiarity with some of those art fundamentals. There's also a 3D element to the course in later modules. So if you've got some knowledge of 3D software, that will stand you in good stead for that. The course requires Photoshop. So it's currently the industry standard for concept art, and a very versatile program that kind of runs the gamut from photo bashing to just straightforward digital painting. So that's what we prioritize here. Blender is also increasingly popular among concept artists, particularly for disciplines such as key art and environment art. And ZBrush, again, is what I use personally for concepting creatures and organic forms. Programs like Clip Studio and Procreate, which are also 2D programs, have their specific applications, but again, Photoshop is where we focus our attention. Okay, so here's some example of some concept art. We got a beautifully composed piece of environment art here, and most people, I think, do kind of divide into the environment camp and the character artist camp. In the center, we've obviously got some character designs, and as you can see here, we're not just designing one skin, one costume iteration. We ideally want to be providing several options for that character's costume. And finally, we have a sort of mood piece, which is intended to give a sense of the atmosphere and feel of that particular IP. So unsurprisingly, this course will set you up very well to be a concept artist, but obviously within that career, there's a huge amount of variation. You could be a specialist or generalist in either films or games. Do you want to be a jack of all trades, or do you want to master a particular discipline or genre, which is what lots of people end up doing. You know, most people are drawn towards a particular aspect of concept art, be it characters, environments, creatures, that sort of thing. Also, studios run different ways. You know, working at a AAA studio and all the prestige that might bring is very different to working in sort of indie scene or a smaller production house. So obviously, there are lots of different styles, different ways you could fit into the industry. And the art fundamentals we teach you lead you down lots of different career paths. And you know, if you don't have a particular focus in mind already, well, you can also use the course as a way to you know, discover what you want to do. And I've seen that happen to lots of students I've taken through the course. So yeah, here's an overview of what we do here. So in the first term, we begin by covering various art and design fundamentals. You know, we introduce you to frameworks and concepts that, you know, you can start to use to objectively improve your art. There's lots of content on design. You know, when we concept things, we're not making just plain reality. We need to make assets that look really cool, whatever that means. So we need to understand how to create a compelling and interesting design. This first semester is also rounded out by a 6-week project that exposes you to the full breadth of the design process in a similar manner to how it would be executed in industry. In the second term, we move on to more advanced topics. There's a lot of work on rendering materials. There's a bit of a creepy assignment where we delve into other fundamentals like drapery, anatomy, that sort of thing. And then we do a little bit of work on style at the end, which is hugely important. You know, people are very concerned about finding style. And also, if you go work for a studio, you need to adapt to the house style. So that's an incredibly important topic. The third term introduces environment and illustration assignments. These are assignments that are generally larger and designed to be ever closer to the demands that will be placed on you in industry. In the fourth term, we go into more sophisticated character and creature design. We study heroes and villains, you know, character archetypes, before delving into, I'd say, more specific concept art techniques, such as paint overs and photo bashing. In the fifth term, we focus on teaching you 3D workflows. So this is 2 projects. The first project is a project in ZBrush. So we'll teach you how to sculpt and do a paint over of a creature. And then we move into doing an environment piece using Blender. And then you have the 6th term to focus on whatever sort of discipline you know, sort of spoke to you most, or what you feel you want to take further. So ideally, at the end of this term, you have some lovely portfolio pieces that, you know, express who you are, and, you know, hopefully show off all the skills and stuff that you've learned. So illustration. So illustration is generally more concerned with more finished work. In fact, what people see as concept art actually can be better categorized as illustration. You know, concept art is generally more focused on the idea, on iteration, on design, whereas illustration is more about producing a polished, finished image, and with perhaps more of an emphasis on explicit narrative and storytelling. We can also make a slight distinction in that concept art is more of a pre-production discipline, whereas illustration tends to be much more of a finished project, right? Like, so if you have an illustration, that generally tends to be what the client uses, whereas with concept, they just use your design. I guess we're more concerned with how we can compose an image to impart different layers of meaning, elicit an emotional response from a viewer, and layer and compose information in a way that lets us to tell quite a complex layered story, but without using words. So yeah, can we go to the next slide, please? Yep. So the disciplines and styles you could be working on are very diverse here, but yeah, you see they're generally more concerned with showing a cool moment, or you know, lots of these images are very exciting and dynamic, and they emphasize a narrative quality that we see less of in production art, which, as we discussed, are more like blueprints. So yeah, with illustration careers, you can go into a wide range of media, you know, outside of films and games, although of course there are many different career paths for digital illustrators you can pursue even within films and games. And also many of the skills we teach you actually during this course are transferable between concept and illustration. So, with even just the foundation section of the course here, we're setting you up for a very wide breadth of careers here. So if we go to the next slide. So the structure of the illustration course is fairly similar. So the first 3 terms are identical because the fundamentals that underpin both disciplines are, as I've said, largely transferable. And then after the first 3 trimesters, you move on to the 2 terms that are specific to the illustration discipline. And then like the concept design pathway, you then have a final capstone term, which you can then go on to produce some portfolio pieces that again show all that you've learned over your time with the school.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter, for the insight into those 2 areas. Next up is 2D animation. So once again, we'll visit Psych.
Hey again. So about 2D animation. Okay, so I think 2D animation is very much I think a passion, just as it is for everything else, to be fair here. So we're all passionate about it. So what is 2D animation? Animation is about making drawings move, essentially. It's for that you need to draw a lot of frames. Yeah, we're talking often about a frame rate, 12 frames per second, 24 frames per second. It's a lot of work. So animation is about drawing, but it's also about acting. When you think about film, you think about the actors and their ability to bring a character to life. That's what we do in 2D animation as well, but we do it through drawings, patiently, one drawing after the other. So it's a lot of work for sure. So the first skills that you need for that kind of job is to have a lot of patience and a lot of passion. So if you feel very passionate about this, if you feel like you enjoy spending hours drawing and bringing your characters to life, maybe that's for you. So also there's a misconception that animation is maybe something that's cheap to produce. I'd like you to understand that it's actually so much work that it's one of the most expensive medium. So even if you're watching things on TV for programs for children and that kind of thing, you might think, oh, this is doesn't cost as much as making a feature film for the cinema, but you might be wrong because it involves a lot of animators and again a lot of skills to get this done. So if you want to get into 2D animation, you'll need some basic skills of drawing, of course. Think about it as if you wanted to run, you need to learn how to walk before you can run. And that's true of animation. You need to be able to draw before you start doing animations. And now this is not entirely true. You can also do 2D animation with cutout animations. So it's more like a rigged system where you have a pre-drawn character for you, and you can just go ahead and take that character and animate it and bring it to life as well. So in a way, it's not essential for 2D animation to be able to draw, but for traditional animation, when you actually draw every single drawing, yes, it is essential. Not that just that, but you have 3D vision as well. You need to understand volume, right? You need to be able to represent your characters from different angles, and so understand what they look like from the top, from the bottom, from the side, and everything. So a 3D vision is important, and this is also very important for perspective. If you're creating a scene with a background, you want to make sure that things make sense in that space. And not only that, but you will probably be drawing a lot of characters, so you need to understand anatomy. You need to know why your body's built, where your muscles are, your proportions, and that sort of thing. So, and the final thing I think it's important is to understand rhythm, right? Animation is very much about rhythm. So if you are a bit of a musician, if you like dancing, if you like sports, rhythm is important in all these things just as much as it is important in 2D animation. So with regard to tools, we use Toon Boom, but to be fair, there are many, many tools out there that you can use. And the skills that you're going to learn using Toon Boom, you can transfer to other apps. You can animate in quite a few different apps. And what's good about the tools is that they're pretty, I would say, straightforward compared to more complex animation like 3D animation. So what you need is essentially a simple timeline, some frames, some layers, and you can animate. So let's have a look at some examples of student work. Well, the good thing about doing 2D animation is that you can bring your own style. Right away, it's about you, it's about how expressing yourself. And so you can see those characters are all very different. You can follow the course and yet bring your own ideas to every one of the subjects that we are going to explore. So these are ideas that are being brought up by the student themselves. The other thing is you get to animate different kinds of characters, so humans, but also creatures, but also 2D special effects, or even animating assets like vehicles and that sort of thing. The school is a great place as well to try things out. If you're not sure whether you prefer cartoon animation or realistic animation, this is time during the exercises where you can try things out, fail, and failing is okay while you study because you have great mentors to help you fix your problems and move forward. So that's what I love about going to school, is that it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. This is how you learn, essentially. Let's have a look at the curriculum, maybe. So we're going to start with very basic things. So if you're scared a little bit about how animation works and where to start, we're going to take you one step at a time with very simple animation, starting with a bouncing ball, doing a variety of simple exercises, lip sync as well. And then we're going to bring it up little by little into more complex animation. And everything is going to be broken down in different steps that are easy to digest. So if you love animation, there's no reason why you can't learn to be a good animator. So we're going to go into things like doing a monologue and a dialogue eventually, where you have two characters talking to each other and acting out. And yes, it may seem daunting at first, but you can do it. And finally, let's have a look at the careers. Oh, actually, maybe we're going to have a look at that later on. Yes, right, fine.
Yeah, we
Cheers,
need a little bit of an insight into 3D first. So, Rick.
Well, I started my career as a generalist, but when I discovered animation, that was it, right? I was like, I fell in love. I just went straight into it. And so if you're here for like to become an animator, I totally understand. I don't need to warn you, as well as Psych has already done. It's hard work. It's really hard work, but it's wonderful to make a character come alive, see that on screen. But yeah, this is what we do. We breathe life into characters frame by frame, as I already mentioned. And then in 3D, compared to 2D, we use a rig. Sometimes this rig can be more complex, which is a bit more technical depending on the tool. But I tend to compare it to a puppet. It's kind of like playing with toys in front of the screen. And yeah, if you enjoy it, it's like playing. So skills you need. Patience, Ike already said that, and he's totally right with that. You do need a lot of patience. Observation is crucial as well, to experience and observe the real world, what's happening out there. How do we translate? And also, a lot of what we do is interpret that realism. Like, we don't try and get everything that's on the real world right on the screen. We pass it through our own eyes and we try to get the believability out of it. So I like to think of it a little bit as like we're actors and then we act through those puppets. So like already said, like that kind of acting part is also a big part of our craft. We might have a little bit of camera phobia, but I don't know if that's the case, because we do need to record a lot of reference as well and put ourselves out there and make sure that we understand what's happening in our body, the anatomy, and all that kind of thing. And then we translate this. So the tools are always going to change, right? Right now we use Maya as an industry standard, but I've had students approach me with pieces done in Blender, and I've reviewed their work the same way, because the principles, the skills, they're the same. So it doesn't matter how you create, how you craft the animations. As a mentor, will be able to teach you the skills that you need, that then these ones could be applied to any tool that you use. But yes, we use Maya as the industry standard. Awesome. So here are some examples of what you can make. And if I've had students want to focus more on clips that could be applied for games, for example, like small little clips, and then others will go and focus more on acting. So what we do is kind of like help you find that path, help you that find your interest, and help you to get those the goals that you need for that. So yeah, there's a little bit of an example of like very broad movements, more like combat and more like acting. So yeah, can we go to the next one? Right. So we start with the foundations, how things move, and we talk about the 12 principles of animation, very similar to what Sai was saying, like the bouncing ball, like getting able to translate and interpret what you see from the real world with these basic mechanics. Animation takes time, and if you're always learning as an animator, even now I'm learning. Like some projects, it's completely different to what I've done before, so I just gotta go back to drawing board and try to start learning again. How is this thing gonna move, you know? So if you only take the first part of our major, you'll learn the basics, which can be applied to a lot of different disciplines, like say VFX, motion graphics, etc. But if you once you go into the advanced courses, that's where we deep dive into acting and breathing life into that character. There's also creature work, which and that all like kind of ends to the capstone of making your own piece, your own story, told your own way with the skills that you're gonna have learned with us. And again, I do want to repeat that's a lot of work, but it's incredibly rewarding to finish a piece. And that passion, if you've got that passion, that work just becomes fun, you know, and you're in front of the computer and you're just like laughing at your character, seeing how they perform something that was before in your brain and now that's in front of you. So yeah, I definitely encourage you to come over and join us. And yeah, Sai, do you want to go to the side of careers
Yeah,
first?
sure. Happy. Yeah.
Awesome.
Talk about so yeah, what I love about 2D animation is that there's quite a lot of different levels you can enter the animation process. In a studio, you can start from simply just coloring in characters. That's a job in itself. So that's pretty an easy way to get into a studio. You could do this as a even like without much experience and still be useful and still work in 2D animation. Then you can do cleanup, you can do effects, you can do background design, you can do storyboard, you can do FX animation, all sorts of stuff. And if you're talking about 2D rigged animation, you have to create rigs, you can create the designs. So you're still part of the animation process without necessarily doing animation really. So there's loads of ways to get into 2D animation. For example, as well, there's loads of industries. Myself, I've worked on, as I was saying, on films, music videos, games, and the web and all sorts of things like that. So you get to, if you're willing, you could work for many a variety of studios and a variety of industries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that also applies in 3D. So there's a whole bunch of different industries that you can get into. Me myself, I did also commercials back in the day. Then I went to films, VFX, and now I'm in games. And then you can specialize as well. You could be like a character animator, more focused on acting, more focused on delivering that performance. You could also go the other way and be more like broad body mechanic, fighting, combat, you know, that kind of thing. Also like creature animations for both games, for films. Then there's like level entry jobs, as Syke was saying, you know, like we can have things like a previous artist, which is more like how do we build that layout? How do we get like an understanding of how this piece is going to look like for the director before we go and start building it? But also like there's bits of like cleanup in terms of games. There's like we've got the motion capture cleanup, data processing, things like that. And in gameplay animation, there's a whole range of things as well. Like you can be a gameplay animator, but also focused on locomotion, or focused on combat, or focused on creatures, and also like the part of like the rigging. How do we construct those puppets? How do we make them move the way we want? And how do we break that that physicality? And or how do you make the restrictions to make that physicality believable in things that they maybe would not be able to do in real life? But yeah, so we've got to be both.
Awesome. Cheers, fellas. Again, this is Rick, so carry on.
Yeah. Real time. So we had a questions. Anu was asking as well. That he said, so I already study 3D models. I work on 3ds Max, Maya, Blender, and learning all these things. How do I bring everything together? You know, so real time department does build upon all disciplines and departments. And it's not a traditional pathway. It's not like, all right, you're just learning this. It's more of a choose your own story kind of thing. I want to put it this way. It offers you a lot of directions, but it focuses on the technical aspect of it. We empower our students to become great technical artists, but focusing on storytelling and in a real-time environment. What is real-time, right? So real-time is that it's like a fast iteration kind of thing. Like everything is there ready for you. It already looks like it's going to look in the final piece. You could be rendering at 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second. But also you could say, right, I just got this piece and I want to render it out. I want to take it out in pieces, in layers. I want to be able to compose this in the end. That also is part of what Unreal allows you to do, or a real time, because I do say Unreal is the industry standard, but this applies to any real-time package. You could use any type of engine, and that's it. You don't have to wait. Iteration is instant. Oh, could we go back one? Yeah, sorry, that's cool. So yeah, we don't have to wait. The iteration is instant, and we can use this in video games, virtual production, LED panels. For example, as my experience, I've used it to capture. So project and capture motion, projecting the artwork for the actors to know where they're performing, what's their environment, what's their surroundings, or also perform together with a virtual companion or even a foe, and fight that beast. Real timing is everything, but we're focusing on this part of Unreal Engine. And here it says skills, knowledge required. Well, it's not what's required for the course, it's more what's required from the industry. Right. So what we're going to give you, what tools and what experience we're going to give you to get you ready for the industry, and we'll help you learn those. So for example, we've got like assets and prop creation that we use Maya to generate things like textures. We show you the UVs. We get you to understand that process of like asset creation pipeline, and we're helping you be everything using like say scripts or visual scripting power, for example, for engine to be able to construct your own idea. It doesn't necessarily need to be a piece that's closed. Maybe it happens when you do something. Maybe it's an interactive piece. Maybe it's a game, like depending on what you want to tell. But yeah, there's a lot of that preparation, and when we start this preparation, we always have the end result in mind. We always have hey, this is going to go into Unreal. This is how the pipeline's going to look like. This is how the asset's going to look like. But yeah, so tools, Unreal Engine, Motion Builder, Gaia for like building worlds, Substance Painter for textures, Maya. But again, I've had other students or use other softwares, and process is the same. It's just technicalities from one another. So your mentors and we will help you bridge those gaps. Yeah, if we can go to the other one. Awesome. So yeah, these are examples that we're focusing on helping you bring this to life. As you can see, that's just the imaginary put there in images, and you could say, oh, I really want to grab that character and move around, or I really want to fly through those mountains. We could do that, and we can do that when and as and when you want it to happen by the powerful use of scripting and programming, etc. But yeah, can we go to the next one? Right. So careers. So can we go to the one that is talking about? Sorry, I think they got mixed up. This one, yes. Thank you so much. So Unreal is massive. So we're trying to help you sow the foundations first. So we've got these 3D fundamental foundations here, in which I explained. We talked about Maya and modeling and the texturing and getting into Substance Painter, and always having in mind that those assets will end up in Unreal, will end up in our final project. But as I said, it's really big. So sometimes you get to inside a rabbit hole and you get to explore the whole engine, and you get a bit overwhelmed. So what your mentor is going to try and do is try to show you what happens when you've got these problems, how to problem solve. So one of the biggest part of this first entry to real time is being able to problem solve, be able to know what's going to happen with the engine. How do we work the engine? How do we tame it? And then we go into more specifics. So for example, we've got world building, in which you don't have to really worry about modeling, but we're thinking more about getting your scenes ready. How do you prepare this massive wall to tell your story, and bringing them to life, making interactive, making them reactive. And then we go into real-time cinematics. As I said, we always focus on sort of like that cinematic approach, learning cameras, learning how do you frame, how do you tell the story by the use of that. We talk about virtual production, how to camera track, previews, etc. And then as part of the real-time program in the department, we've got professionals from the industry, but in very different disciplines. For example, we've got really good technical artist mentors, which are specialized on getting like mathematics, shading, realism that will help you get into this advanced material development. We also have we brought in really awesome mentors for full-time in career in VFX and Niagara, and they're building this curriculum, they're building these lessons, they're re-recording those videos to adapt to the new industry process. And also, it's a really fast-growing, it's a very, very fast-paced. The technology is advancing so fast that we keep up with that. We re-record new videos. We try and make sure that you got the new techniques to apply to your own projects. And then the capstone is the end of this. So here's where you say, right, do I want to focus on a single bit? Do I want to just stay in that and specialize and be the best on this part? Or do I want to make it my whole project? Do I want to be more of a generalist? I think earlier we mentioned about you could be like a very good specialist on a AAA, or you could have like an indie side or an indie approach to it, which is just taking care of everything, trying to bring your idea to life by yourself. So yeah, if we can go back to the previous slide now. Thank you so much. So yeah, careers, well, there's a lot, right? And they're growing, and new ones are popping out. So for example, here we've got real-time 3D artists, for films, for games, for commercials, but also there's now like real time in motion graphics, in how we produce like real time for news, how we produce real time for sports event, things like that. You could be a technical artist that helps not just in a video game or a film, but also helps in a medical side of things, like how do we preview anatomy, how do we preview certain diseases, etc. That's also a possibility. Architect for visualization as well, it's growing, and we can even now immerse and mentioned before in VR, in other types of medias that they didn't exist before. And likewise with 3D animation, we've got the previews, because we can bring these 3D and animation in engine. Another big part, like for example, I'm an animator, another big part of Unreal nowadays is the rigging side, the rigging pipeline and the animation pipeline. Unreal is becoming a really good package for 3D animation. So we can help you with that as well. And we re-recorded all those videos to make sure that we provide this learning path for you as well, and we keep up with the latest and greatest that's now coming out. And yes, that's it for real-time 3D. Sorry, that was long.
Cheers, Rick. Don't worry, no, that was great. It's an awesome area to explore and continue with awesome areas. Sean, do you want to take us through VFX?
Absolutely, I'd love to. So what is effects? Well, if you've gone to any theatrical movie or Netflix show or played any video game and you saw something explode, blow up, or otherwise melt or catch on fire, or any of the other things that happen, that was most likely done in effects. Effects is creating simulations of typically a recreation of a real-world event, if you will. That also can include the Death Star exploding, a little homage to some Star Wars there. But everything in effects is all about kind of suspending the realistic, but trying to recreate what is realistic in an unreal world. It's quite exciting because you get to blend a little bit of mathematical science-based learning with the actual artistic side of things. So I always like to say, when it comes to effects, it's equal parts left brain, equal parts right brain. You don't get one or the other. It comes as a package. As you're going through effects, you're building what's called simulations. You have an opportunity to recreate these types of things in a 3D environment. This is going to be something that, depending on the outcome, whether it's going to be in a game or a feature film or an episodic television show, it depends on how intense or how realistic that is. It might come out in a stylized, cartoony way. It might come out in a live action, realistic way that's supposed to simulate exactly what a volcano might look like exploding back when Mount Vesuvius was blowing its top. But ultimately, the goal is you are creating these really exciting fluid or particle-based simulations that gives you the opportunity to create some very fantastical outcomes. What you're going to be learning in these programs, as you can see right there, where skills and knowledge is required, you're going to be learning basic 3D modeling, lighting, and rendering knowledge. You're going to also be learning organizational skills, opportunity to be able to know exactly how to structure things. Cause and effect is actually a very important aspect of effects. When you set things up in a certain pattern or an order, things happen in a certain pattern or order. And if you change that just a little bit, you get potentially a completely different outcome. And at the end of it all, everything is based in a reasonably deep understanding of physics and natural phenomena. So what I was mentioning earlier, even if it's the Death Star exploding, it's based around certain levels of physics and an understanding of that. Now, you might ask, does that mean I need to have a science background? No, you don't. We will teach you that stuff. You will learn it. We start you from the basics and we grow you into it. A few examples of some effects, as you can see in these little images right here. On the left right there, you got this exploding energy cloud over this cathedral type thing. This is probably an example of what you would go after for live action visual effects. So that could be in, let's say, Stranger Things. Or any of those Netflix specials or Amazon Prime specials. The middle one right there, we see this little 3D jellyfish type blob. This could be a simulation for a game, for example. Something that you're going to be utilizing in something going on in some sci-fi universe right there. And then obviously on your right, perfect example of effects for gameplay. You're going to be building out simulations. The character jumping through great right there and exploding into this liquidy goo is a perfect prime example of what you would be doing in game cinematics. Affects careers as a whole. Well, there's a lot that comes out of this. The reality being, you kind of can step into many different buckets with this. Kind of what some of the others have already mentioned. Effects applies to every genre of the entertainment and creative arts, whether that be gameplay, whether that be commercials, whether that be music videos, whether that be television shows, streaming, or broadcast, as well as features. All these different categories come back to the fact that effects artists are needed. You have to simulate all those things. If it's a ship in an ocean, you can see a little bit of a screen grab. I've seen this shot before. It's a little harder to tell. That's a tentacle of a giant sea monster destroying a ship. Well, if you're destroying a ship out in the middle of the ocean in the dark and it's 18, the year 1832 or something, you're going to need to create all those water and fluid simulations. You're going to have to create all the simulations of the rigging, breaking, and snapping in half. Everything goes back to the effects artist. You have different categories of these jobs you can do as an effects artist within film and games. You can do character effects artists. So when you have 3D characters that let's say are running, and I don't illustrate this well, but if I had long hair and I were a 3D character running across the stage, I'd need my hair to be floating in the air. Maybe it's slow motion or something, but it would have that stage presence that would be really exciting. Effects technical artists are artists that also have the opportunity to be able to do what we call tech anim sometimes, cleanup. So this could be your clothing that's moving around with the characters, fixing different broken parts of it, as well as maybe it's let's say it's a character that's emitting fire and smoke off of them. So then now you got to simulate based upon the character. And then obviously, as you work your way through your career, you have the opportunity to go into lead and supervisory positions. So that's the person that is typically your go-to. That's the individual that knows a lot about everything when it comes to effects and is supervising or leading a team of effects artists. All right, so let's just talk a little bit about the majors. So just breaking it down from the basics all the way into the more advanced, You are going to start out from the ground up. The goal is as I said earlier, we're not expecting you to be a science whiz at gravity, for example, or an understanding of it. The simple fact of the matter is we're going to train you from the basics. We're going to show you how to do simple fluid sims or simple particle setups as well, and building that in what is the industry premier effects software known as Houdini. You're going to start from the basics and slowly build upon that, working into rigid body dynamics. Pyro, everybody loves a good fire simulation, nothing wrong with that. We do like to burn things when it comes to Hollywood, and effects is no exception. You move into liquid and vellum effects. That gets a little bit more sticky, gets a little more challenging, but you're simulating, again, real world effects. Then you're moving into actual production. So now you're taking all those different tools that you've learned and you're putting them together to start building out effects-based shots that would be giving you something for a simulation that you would be utilizing for production. Moving into advanced effects production. Again, we don't want to start you with the beginning and just leave you hanging. We're going to take you into mid-level and sometimes even teach you some of the secrets that the senior artists are the ones that typically have learned and utilize in studio. We end at the effects capstone. That's where you're going to be working on your portfolio pieces, building out those awesome shots, and ultimately illustrating those skills so that when you're going after employment, once you've graduated with us, you have the chance to be able to not only be noticed, but compete effectively against other individuals. For us, our goal is never to leave you as a junior level artist with your work. We want you to learn and gain access to knowledge, which gets you into that mid-level artist. The key differentiation between mid-level and senior means you've got industry experience. You've been working in the studio, you have some time under your belt. Mid-level is the opportunity where you can show that you have a significantly higher level of technical knowledge, and now all you need is that industry experience to pair with that high level of technical knowledge. So everything that's built in this program is to set you up to compete and be distinguished from the rest of the individuals going after employment as effects artists.
Awesome. Cheers, Sean. And I can confirm our head of VFX does enjoy blowing stuff up. As every opportunity he can get, he will digitally blow something up. I'll let Sean continue talking about community.
All right. Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, as the Dean of Students, I oversee the student journey and the learning and life cycle that comes out of that. And one of our biggest parts that we are absolutely proud of and very supportive within is our community. As an industry, as a global industry, the big thing, and I'm looking at everybody's face on here, and then all of our participants, what you're joining into is not just a career, but you're joining into a community. You have an opportunity to get to know people, make friends, and ultimately gain access to not just career opportunities, but also lifelong friendships. One of the exciting things that comes out of our community is the fact that you are not only getting to know people, but these are people that walk with you throughout your entire career journey. One of the things that we will be emphasizing to you, and you might have already heard this, it's not just about getting your foot in the door, it's about who you know. Who you know is ultimately one of the biggest factors in where you go, what job opportunities you're going to gain access to. And our community is all about a supportive, inclusive environment that allows you to not only thrive as an artist, but also thrive as an individual growing into this industry. As you can see right there, that statistic, we have over 4,500 students, graduates, and mentors within our community. These are active individuals that participate in various projects, community events, and overall experience that allows individuals such as yourself to move effectively through your career. We have the desire, and one of the big emphasis within the community is that we want you to share your progress. Everything about this is to set you up for success at the end, but also from the beginning. You start out as a student with us. You are here because we want to see you grow. We want to give you the opportunity to explore what it is you're learning, but also get that feedback. Everything is about a two-lane road. You are going to be sharing the work that you are doing and getting that feedback. And every individual that's on this call that's sharing from CG Spectrum are a vital piece of that, and many, many others who are not here as well. our mentors are active in the industry, and they're providing feedback from the industry based upon what they know here and now, telling you how it is that you can succeed in what you're doing. You can also, as you can see, that third bullet point, give and receive constructive feedback. That's literally what I'm saying right now. Everything is about the feedback machine. When you go into this industry, it's not personal, it's professional. We want to give you that feedback to prepare you to succeed. We want you to give you the ability to say, hey, you know what? It's not personal if they tell me that something's wrong. It's a professional outcome. They're telling us how to make it better. Everything we do is to build you up to make you a stronger artist. Collaboration opportunities, no bounds in our community. Right now, we've got the rookies going on, and we've got a ton of collaborative opportunities that are going on. I can't tell you how many different groups are right now pounding away at some very exciting projects that they're going to be submitting just for the rookies alone. These are portfolio pieces, pieces to be proud of, and pieces that ultimately are going to end up in each and everybody's individual's portfolio when they're going after that wonderful job. Valuable support and advice. That's our community in a nutshell. Our mentors are full of advice and experience. They are here to share, whether it be direct technical knowledge, but also anecdotal experiences. Being able to say, hey, you know what? I think you should do this to the shop because guess what? 20 minutes ago, I was in the studio and I'd advised that same thing to one of my artists that was on my team, and the VFX director just absolutely loved it. So why don't you try that? I think it's going to look awesome. Things like that is exactly what comes back to the experience that we have in the community. It's real world, real experience, and ultimately real success. We have regular creative challenges and group activities. As I mentioned right now, the rookies is ongoing. But outside of that, we have many other groups. We have opportunities for people to join into things such as even clubs. For example, we're all artists here. So I'm going to say the one word that outside of the arts sometimes gets a little snicker, but we're nerds. We love it. Look at all the stuff on my shelf. I'm a kid at heart. We were talking about things blowing up right there. That was a project we did for CG Spectrum. It was as a model, they call them model bigatures, and we blew it up. It was fun. But these are cool opportunities to be able to go after a chance to do a group activity, gain access to that knowledge, and ultimately build your portfolio in a collaborative environment, just like it would be in the industry. Participating in cross-disciplinary projects, same idea. So if I'm working in effects or if I'm working in compositing from my area, I'm going to probably collaborate with, let's say, a 3D modeler so they can build out a 3D scene. I'm going to work with somebody who's going to texture and light that. I'm going to work with somebody in real-time 3D who's going to build out some 3D cameras and the 3D scene, rendering it out. Why don't we talk to a 3D animator and have them drop an animated character in there, light that up, and then ultimately we're making a full-on production-ready shot. It's not just an example of what I can do. Now it's an example of what an entire team, just like it would be in a studio, would do in a production pipeline. Ultimately giving you that ability to walk away with not only a portfolio piece, but a portfolio piece worthy of studio quality work. Tech support from dedicated online technical assistants. We are so proud of our technical assistants. We call them TAs for short. We have two categories of TAs. We have our community TAs. They're the individuals. These are students or recent graduates of the school who are a part of our community, helping to support all these different community ventures, bringing in keynote speakers that address and share different industry experience, opportunities to collaborate, opportunities to provide technical support and feedback within work, group study sessions, all those items plus many others. We have course TAs as well. These are TAs that are embedded specifically within your courses as you move through our degree programs with us. They're there to help support you in that specific class. You have questions, they have study hall hours. You can jump in, you can ask them questions, get feedback, support, and ultimately get the ability to gain access to the knowledge that you deserve when you're going through our programs with us. At the end of it all, it's all about networking. It's about making friends, and at the end of the day, having fun. As I mentioned, that one little word, nerds, that people kind of give a little look to. We love to have fun. Every single opportunity we're going to be working hard, but we're also going to be playing hard. And I'll tell you, at the end of the day, every single person in any studio I've ever worked at, and I think everybody on this call will attest to this, 99% of the folks in there are just basically adults or children trapped in adult bodies, because we're just having fun. We love what we do. We love to create, and we love to make things move, blow up, explode, animate, basically make the impossible possible. That's
Making
really
a
our
career
goal.
out of a hobby. That's the key thing, isn't it?
Exactly.
But that's enough of us telling you about it. Let's hear from some of our students.
Let's do it.
Hi, I'm Ebony. I have been studying at CG Spectrum for 3 trimesters, so almost a year, and I am studying a Bachelor of Animation and VFX. I never realised that FX and animation could be a path I could take. It wasn't until I started to dabble myself, find online videos like YouTube and things, and doing that online self-teaching I found really difficult. It's hard to get the right information and you just go in circles. But once I found CG Spectrum and started, I really enjoyed the structure. I felt like I was building on my learning every week and really building my skills from a foundational level. I love the fact that our tutors are industry specialists. They have worked on some of the biggest games and films, and they bring that experience to our lectures every week. I also love the fact that we get access to some industry speakers who come and speak to us. It is really cool to hear about what it's like behind the scenes, in games and in films, and learning about what the job role is and learning about ways to step into industry. We have our core subjects and we have our major. And at the start, I was sort of like, oh, do I need these core subjects? Like, what are they for, really? I just want to do this thing. But once I started, it really opened my eyes. The core subjects actually gave me this great breadth of knowledge to film and games, and why directors make the choices they do, why cinematographers made these choices, why game designers made these choices, and the way those choices make us as an audience or a player feel. I think that was really surprising for me because I could look at my work differently, and I think I've become a much better animator and FX artist because of that, because I have a better understanding of all those other things. I have so loved the experience of being at CG, and it's been more than I thought it could ever be, because it's not just, you're not just a student, you're not just a number, you're a person, you're this person among others who are all passionate about games and films and wanting to grow your skills and connect and learn about the industry and be part of it. And I felt that I'm on this journey together with my other students and my tutors who I've really had the opportunity to get to know. And I would never have had that without CG. There is no way I could have got in touch with the people that I am now, with the tutors that I am, and to be able to tap into their enormous experiences and their talent. And it's so, for those reasons, it's been amazing just by itself, just having access to those incredible people. And then on top of that, you've got the wonderful structured learning where you can build on what you learn every week. And there is so much help that you never feel like you're on your own, because everyone is there to help you. So it's a wonderful experience. And to anyone who's thinking about it, just go ahead and make your dreams come true.
Hi, my name is Juan Vidar. I am a 2D animation student at CG Spectrum, currently at my 2nd trimester. I had never even touched 2D animation software before, but the way that all of these learning concepts were introduced, I feel like I was able to open up the software and start working on it from the get-go. I started with not being able to even find the right tools within the Toon Boom software to actually work with more complex animations and be able to weave in storytelling for the courses outside of my major, the ones that are more related to industry principles or art principles or art history and cinema history. All of those things have been very helpful, especially because they kind of break that fantasy that we have about how films are made, and it actually shows you this is how they're actually made. This is how how the pipeline is spread apart, and this is where you fall in. And that is, on one hand, very humbling, but on the other hand, it also gives you that security that is like you are joining a huge like project, and this is your role, and this is why we need you. It's been amazing to find people that share my interest, especially for 2D animation. Also finding so many welcoming mentors that have firsthand experience with this craft and are so willing to give you all the tools needed. They encourage you submitting your work just as a work in progress to the channel, and people get to comment, they get to react to it. And a lot of times you get a mentor that is like, this is amazing, can I give you my 2 cents on it? And they give really good feedback. Honestly, I think that's one of the biggest upsides to being at CG Spectrum, just the amount of people that can share their knowledge with you. You have a lot of learning resources available to you. And that is a fact. And I even studied by myself for a long time before I joined CG Spectrum. I think what CG Spectrum brings compared to studying by yourself is that it brings that community. It brings that wide array of people that come from different backgrounds that have all made the exact same decision of like, I want to change into this industry, but I have no idea where to start. And that is already such a helpful platform, because you have people, like-minded people, that they are in the same pursuit of knowledge as you. And you also have people that have already made it. And that, at least for me, gives me such a boost to like keep doing better and to keep learning and to keep researching. Even outside of school, I'm constantly researching more than I ever did, because I have that mindset now. And I think that is absolutely priceless.
I'm Bree Nickel. I'm studying the 3D modeling bachelor's degree at CG Spectrum, and it's been great so far. I chose CG Spectrum because it was one of the few programs that offered a bachelor's degree, which I really liked, for something super specialized like 3D modeling, which I found a hard time finding to be available, especially online. So I thought it was the perfect program for me. So I have some experience modeling beforehand, I would say. I've done a lot of character modeling and things like that, but I do think that the CG Spectrum classes have given me a lot more like a broader understanding of 3D modeling in general. Like, I've learned a lot of things I didn't know before that were pretty basic, and I had no idea how to do them. So it was great to learn those things, because it makes the pipeline a lot easier for me, as well as like just overall learning things that could help me get a job in the future that I didn't know how to do. I found the community is super helpful. The mentors are super helpful. Everyone, like, if I have a question, I just post it on Slack and it gets answered in, like, I'm not even kidding, like a couple minutes, an hour. As a 3D modeler, I like to post like sculpts and stuff in the Slack channel, and I find that people give me a lot of helpful feedback, especially mentors and TAs. So overall, even though I get a lot of one-on-one time with my personal mentors, I think you also get just a lot of experience and good feedback from others online as well. The skills that CG Spectrum has taught me so far is soft skills and technical skills. Like, a lot of the classes are very focused on, okay, this is the pipeline you want to join, here's the jobs within it, and here's what you need to do to get those jobs. But also the technical skills. Like, this week we made grass, 3D grass. I thought that was awesome. I've never done that before. So now I like making plants, you know? You're always learning something new, and it's great. I think for the core classes, it's been really easy to do the work overall. Like, the classes are very straightforward. They tell you exactly what you need to know. We learn about like making resumes, about the pipeline, about kind of just general little niche things in the job that I don't know where you'd learn elsewhere, basically. So it's been a great experience overall. I've already like met a bunch of little like groups of people, and we've played games together. You know, we've talked about stuff in the art world. We've connected on LinkedIn and ArtStation. So actually, you know, I found it surprisingly easy, even for like all online, which is usually tough to like kind of get to know people. The community is really nice and friendly and welcoming, so it's been great so far. I definitely recommend it if you want to get into like film and game entertainment industry type thing. I think it's great. It's a perfect preparation, and you can get a degree out of it if you want, which is honestly hard to do elsewhere. So I think it's a great program. I would definitely recommend it.
Awesome. I almost wonder why we're required when students taught that well for us. Next up, if that has piqued your interest, everybody, John can talk us through the admissions process.
Thank you, Stu. Well, I don't think there's much more I can say that hasn't been said by these amazing people, and most importantly by our wonderful students who absolutely do love studying. Our role, though, is to talk about you. We've talked about us a lot tonight, and that was the deal, so you get to know who we are. But the admissions team, we're most interested in you and where you're up to in your life, and where you'd like to go in your life, and what you'd like to know. And we're here to have discussions with you. I'm actually looking at the attendee list. I've got a couple of admissions team members here tuning in. And that's the sort of commitment you get from the entire team, including the admissions team, who are fully on board to support you through your journey to work in industry. So the admissions process is relatively simple. There's a few ways you can get in touch with us. You obviously can follow the emails that have been up on the screen, and there'll be a few more of those in a minute. You can go to our website and you can make a full application on the website if you choose to. And then once that application has been made, then you're going to engage with one of our admissions team members, depending on which part of the world that you live in. So if you live in Europe, for instance, you might end up with Sherby, who's presently on this open day presentation, and he will walk you through exactly, what you'd like to learn about the various programs, which one might suit you, etc. And then once you've made that submission, if there is a portfolio review, let's say you're doing something in concept art, then you could submit your portfolio for review. We'll talk about things like tuition fees, scholarships. If you're in Australia, we have full fee help. And we'll step you through what that looks like, talk about payment plans. We really tried to remove any of the friction and barriers in your way to start studying with us. And they're the things we can speak confidentially, privately, and specifically about you and what you'd like to achieve. During the process, if there is any RPL or there's any credit transfers from other universities, we can certainly consider that. And then Stuart Butler, I'm convinced, never sleeps, because Stuart will respond basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We do send flowers to his wife to say thank you, because he will go through and do that work for you. And we're very open to any of those credit transfers and RPLing that you have. You couldn't tell by looking. I'm convinced he's Iron Man, by the way. Every time I look at Stu, he looks like a young Robert Downey Jr. But we're there to support you through that process. So if there's any questions you have, they're sometimes difficult to ask in an open forum. Our admissions team, most of them have been students of ours or TAs of ours or mentors of ours. Now I have the great pleasure of working with this amazing group of people. There's 10 of us across the world in all different time zones. So we've got 3 in Europe, a couple in the States, in Canada, in Australia. So it doesn't matter where you live, we can contact you and have a discussion with you. And we would really welcome the opportunity to talk with you. And it doesn't really matter whether you want to start next month or next year. We're here to support you and go on the journey with you. There's not much more I can say. That my job really has been done tonight or today or this evening or this morning, wherever you are, with these amazing people, to get the opportunity to spend time with the people that have presented you today. Seriously, if you couldn't enroll with us, money couldn't buy it. So, they're amazing people, extremely passionate about what they do professionally, but even more passionate, strangely enough, about our students. So it's a wonderful, supportive, inclusive place to find yourself. And there is nowhere better in the world to study than here. So if you really do want to make a go of this in your life, let us know. We'll speak to you and we'll start you on the path. I'll hang about if there's any questions afterwards. But the best thing you can do is book a time with our admissions team and have a private one-on-one consultation and tell us all about yourself. We'd love to speak to you.
Awesome.
Go and
Cheers.
follow us too, by the way, Stu. Get on the 8, just go make sure you follow us on Instagram and so on. But put your lead in so we can have a chat. Thanks, Stu.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've shared the links to all the different pages where you can apply or reach out and get in touch with John and his team and get them started on working out what the next steps in your journey are. So Yeah, we're going to move into our Q&A now. So we've been answering questions all through this afternoon, morning, evening, whatever it might be. And there are a couple that we've kind of flagged as ones that we were going to answer live. So thank you if you dropped those in and have been exceptionally patient to wait for the answers. But I suspect they're questions that everybody wants to know the answers to. The first one, which has been asked by a couple of people, so Lisa Marie and Nicholas, it's kind of a similar question really, which is our entry requirements, particularly for concept art or actually the diploma of digital arts that includes 2D animation, concept art and illustration. And it's around whether you need the portfolio and whether you can come from a level 3 art and illustration course. So ultimately, yes, if you've studied level 3 or high school and you've done art courses, then you're a good step along the way. The big question comes from, are you ready to take on these next steps of the journey? And that is where the portfolio comes in. So for those courses, we do ask to see a portfolio of traditional drawing or 2D drawing, whether it's traditional or digital. And our head of concept art or our head of animation will review those just to make sure that we're not putting you in a position where you're going to struggle or fail because of your drawing skills. If you are a little bit short in that area, we can sort that as well. So we do have a drawing basics course, which I'm sure John and his team will direct you towards should the review come back unsuccessful. But our key thing is to work you towards being able to access it and be able to hit the ground running and not have the drawing skills limit your ability to succeed in our course. So there is a portfolio requirement for those. If you're not sure if your portfolio is good enough already, then reach out to John's team and they can talk you through that, and we can help identify where the shortcomings are or where you need to improve, or hopefully just go, yes, absolutely, come and study with us. So do feel free to send those along. But the key things that we'll be looking for in those, and Peter, do correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, is things like perspective drawing and understanding of anatomy and a general ability to create forms and psych as well. If there's anything that jumps out that I'm saying that's incorrect, do feel free to correct me. But the key thing is those fundamental drawing skills, because we don't teach those as part of our degrees. We're looking for you to move into animation or the concept art aspect from day one.
Yeah, I do think it's important to not throw yourself into studying something if you're not quite ready, because you might just be a bit disappointed. You might feel like this is not for you and you might give up on that career. That would be a shame, right? So if you really want to do 2D animation particularly, I think you want to make sure your drawing skills are strong enough. You can just practice with some of the characters that you love on TV, on cinema, and just draw them and be honest with yourself. Compare your drawing skills with what you're looking on the screen. And you don't have to be perfect either to get this started in these courses. But if you feel like it's a little too rough, maybe you need to spend a bit more time just increasing those skills, those basic drawing skills. Yeah.
Awesome. Anything you'd add to that, Peter, from a concept art perspective for what we'd be kind of expecting on an entry level?
No, I think that all sounds good. Yeah, just solid fundamentals, and yeah, I think if you've got at least a basic grasp of things like perspective, anatomy, and that sort of thing, it means we can, focus on more of the high concept stuff and work on refining those fundamentals as opposed to I guess taking what is quite advanced material and having to sort of tailor it down to just teaching those basics. So no, everything sounds good.
To be comfortable with a pencil or drawing implement.
Yeah. And I'd reiterate that it's really, well, as Sean said, you're supposed to feedback at every stage, so it's something you have to get used to. So even though that rejection might be painful, it does save a lot of grief of having to be in this situation where you feel like things are spinning out of your control, because they're really fun disciplines, but they're also incredibly rigorous, and you do have to spin a lot of plates and you do have to learn a lot of things. So they're very demanding. So I think it makes sense to be as prepared as possible.
Awesome. Yeah. And as I said before, if you're not quite there, we do have a solution for that as well, which John's team can talk to you about. And that brings us on nicely to, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name, Obi's question, which was, if you're not ready for diploma courses, what can the career track courses do for you? And I think the simple answer to that is that our career track aligns to our majors directly. So you may be more ready than you realize. If you want to study 3D animation, 3D modeling, game design, programming, we do begin you from the ground, because those aren't necessarily things that you will have had the opportunity to study before. And the fundamentals, we're going to cover those. And the same goes with VFX. We don't expect Houdini to appear anytime soon in high schools. That's just not going to happen. So we don't have that expectation of that there. Obviously, the exception being the concept art and 2D guys, where we do like to make sure you can draw first. But talk to the team, talk to John and his team. You're probably more ready than you realize. You found us. That's a good start. And you're asking the right questions. So you may be, you may be more ready than you know. So moving on.
Stuart, do you mind if I jump in? I'm gonna
absolutely go for it.
Bigger thing you were talking about portfolio requirements and just artists in general and what to get into our programs. I do love to always point out that not all artists can draw. In fact, there's a large portion of us artists who can't draw, and that's okay, because there's a large portion of different areas of the arts. So I do want to emphasize to anybody that's considering, if you do have an interest, it doesn't mean you have to be really amazing at drawing, or you need to take a drawing course. That's not to diminish the importance of that, but there are technical artists, there are digital artists that don't need to do that. For example, in effects, I can draw a mean stick figure and I can give you a nice side-scrolling image of something, but if you decided I needed to give you an accurate reproduction of Mia, like Psych has been giving us in those amazing weekly images, I would fall on my face so quickly. But that doesn't mean I can't do what I was trained to do. So to emphasize that, portfolio requirements, if you have more of a technical aspect to what you like to do, you like math, we got a career tracks for you that also would very much apply. Programmers, I will say, back to the jokes that were going on, I got a beard because I go back to Fortran days, if you can believe that. I'm not that old, but I did start as a kid. It is a thing. Like, you do not have to have what would be traditionally expected when you hear the word artist. I need to be good with a paintbrush. I need to be good with a pencil. There's other options as well.
Yeah, it is just that digital art with a 2D animation, concept art, illustration. For the other ones, I'm a published 3D vehicle artist. I cannot draw, and Tom and Jason can probably attest to this because they've worked with me and seen some of my nonsense before. Me and a pen do not get on, but I can model, I can animate, I can do a whole load of other things, just cannot draw. So we have another question from Riley, who's asked, for students based in Victoria, what opportunities are available for networking with local studios such as Framestore, Princess Bento, etc. One of the exciting things that we haven't covered, because it's currently not part of our accredited program yet, is our campus in Collingwood. Now, I'm actually visiting Melbourne this week, and I'm had the opportunity to spend some time on our amazing campus, and that is something that is beginning as a hub for our kind of networking opportunities and activities within Melbourne, as a hub for linking our students into studios like Framestore and Princess Bento. In fact, our good to great students today went on a tour of Princess Bento. That's about all I can say about that, because there's a lovely NDA in place. I didn't get to go, sadly, but they had a great time. I've heard nothing but positives coming out of the team that went and the students. But yeah, we are building those experiences and opportunities for students who are nearby, and there will hopefully be opportunities for our bachelor students to join us on that campus in the future too. But
you know what, we could go one step further, Stuart. I'm sorry to interject again, but students across the globe, with our networking, with our mentors, I can't tell you how many times students have got opportunities to visit local studios because of a mentor contact. We had a large group of students over here. I'm based in Los Angeles, California, here in the US. We had a large portion of students that came last year, and we did a big tour at Disney and at DreamWorks and a few other places. Opportunities are quite prevalent across the globe if you are willing to connect and network.
Absolutely. So we have one more question, which is, Sean, I'm going to throw this one at you, actually, because your team tend to deal with it. And it's, do we provide home licenses for programs like Toon Boom, Photoshop, etc., as part of the things we do?
Absolutely. No, that's actually a good question because that's probably one of the most common questions we'll get across the board, just out of concern. Because if you've looked at some of these software packages, they are expensive, and rightly so because they're the industry software of choice. So directly to that question, we do provide what basically paperwork for you to be able to apply with the different software vendors directly to gain access to educationally licensed versions of the software. Typically, it's industry level, meaning it's not a stripped down version of the software, but it's restricted to educational use only. So we've gone and worked with the different software vendors and negotiated opportunities at either a low cost or no cost, depending on what the software is. Depends on the software vendor. But at the end of the day, yes, we will work with you and help you gain access to reduced cost software.
Absolutely. So we have 3 minutes, which is amazing that we've brought this in on time. These online open days with so many different people that are really enthusiastic. It's really hard to deliver on time. But we have 3 minutes. So if you've got any other questions, please fire those into the Q&A or the chat, and we'll pick those up. And then, yeah, so you've got 3 more minutes to ask anything that you might want to have. And Sean's going to throw up our lovely call to action slide again. So do join us on the socials. You get to experience the regular drops of Sykes art, which is amazing. But also the other work our students and mentors are doing, our amazing kind of students talking all about the wonderful things we're doing, as well as the opportunities that we're building in different parts of the world.
One thing I could add, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
We're in London here, and we're going to have a meetup with the students in May. Basically, it's organized by the TAs, and I think it's a great thing because it's nice just to meet the students on camera and all, but it's a great opportunity to meet people in real life and to increase the connections between people and to strengthen the network. So I'm looking forward to this meetup. It will be in May for us, and I think they try to organize it in different places around the world throughout the year. So yeah, that's one thing to look forward to.
Absolutely. We do have channels on our Slack community for all the different locales. So you can, if you want to organize a meetup as a student, you can do. Just put it out there that you want to go and play board games and who's around or whatever it might be. And Annie, our TA, who's been helping out with questions in the background, she'll be there as well and joining us, as will Tom and Jason and myself, and maybe Rick, maybe, don't know. I can't remember if he was on the list. He's nodding, so yeah, it's good. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Thanks to my panelists and colleagues who have joined us and given us their time. Sean, thank you so much, given the ridiculous hour of the day that it is for you, for joining us to talk about VFX and the student community and everything there. And thank you to everybody that's joined us from around the world as potential students. We look forward to hearing from you. And if you've got any questions, our details are all there. Please reach out. Hopefully we'll see you studying with us soon.